I'd like to call it the Bancroft Brothers Animation Podcast. Welcome to it, Tony. You want to join me?
Yeah, I'm in for it. This is Tony Bancroft, and together we are the Bancroft Brothers, animators that have been working in the industry for over 35 years, and yet we still love talking about animation. So here we are.
And if you can't tell the difference between our voices, sorry about that. We're identical twins. How crazy is it that we decided to do a podcast when our voices sound the same? Sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. So here we go, guys. But first, let's
And we
talk
have
about
the exact same knowledge base.
yeah, exact same experience, exact
We're
same
like
knowledge
one
base,
person just
and we
split in
never
half.
disagree. That's the nice thing. So it's like you're
Well,
getting
that's
one
not
for
so
two.
true. That part's a little lie-ish.
No, that's true. Tonight,
Yeah.
tonight, I think there's going to be some disagreement.
Okay.
Tonight we're going to talk about updates and things going on in the animation industry. This is our update podcast right before the end of the year. It's a good time to get into it. Maybe we'll even do a little projecting into the new year.
Let's get into this tonight, Tony, because we do have a little bit of a shorter night or podcast today. If we do it right. Tonight is hash it out. We don't always use that term anymore, but Tony and I have always had, when it's just Tony and I talking and going over some stuff, we call it a hash it out episode. And so that's what tonight is. We kind of are pinpointing a few things, mostly updates on sort of what's going on in the industry, with a large slant toward the Animation Union and AI regulations and things like that.
Oh boy, Tom. Yes, and it's going on. I got to say, there's a lot bubbling up right now, but they're all kind of everything is kind of spinning around the same sphere of studios downsizing. Studios spent too much money, had too much production going on for years, the last couple of years since COVID. Now they're downsizing. They're trying to find what is the rate and the price, but we thought that after COVID, and I was one that thought this too, that once COVID was over, kind of the world would come back to order again, and it makes sense again, and it's people are working, and we're doing all the same projects,
and go back to the way it was, and that's the big awakening.
and
of
go
COVID.
back to where it was before
came back
COVID.
to the way it was. Yeah,
right. And so it hasn't come back, and in this case, executives at studios, and I'm going to try not to make them the villains of this podcast, Tom, but you'll have to help me on that, because I do see them as villainish, or at least out for their jobs, basically, which is, if we can save money, if we can make things for less, we'll keep our jobs, because they're not really, the corporation.
And I want to throw this out. I'm pro employer, because I am an employer. I have Pencilfish Animation Studios. And so I happen to see both sides of the argument. I am an artist still, of course, and a creator. And so I love those people. I love my employees. I love, hiring people. But I also,
You want to survive. You want to survive as a company.
I get the challenges that come along with owning a business. And by the way, everybody, I want to remind you really quickly, who employs you? Employers. So they're not all evil, and everything they do is not evil. We want them to
I'm Mr. Small Business, small studio guy. I totally support I support you in Pencilish, and I always will. But same for any other small. We were just talking about Real Effects earlier today. We were talking about Ken Duncan Studios, Brazen Animation, some really great small studios that we just totally support, right? Yeah. And I will live and die based on my support for them is 100%. I have an issue with big conglomerations, and I am one of those that will go, okay, is this best for the conglomeration and them taking over the world, or is this good at all for the employees that they oftentimes take advantage of? And I've heard too many stories, especially in our industry, Tom, about wages not being increased. And we're going to get into this in a minute with the IATSE contract that just got an agreement. It's a tentative agreement. They haven't signed it yet, but it was announced just yesterday that IATSE, the Animation Guild, has come to an agreement with
at this point they better sign it, because I saw every single website and Hollywood news source is covering that they're a tentative agreement.
Yeah, they're acting like it's a done deal, but it technically it is not. But because the voting members still have to vote to resolve it and decide if they'll take it, so that has not happened yet. So it could be kicked back. We'll see, but. We'll get to that in a minute. But what I wanted to say was that we are on a different verge in the animation industry where studios, are the bigger ones especially, are just trying to downsize like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
What that's going to mean is AI, outsourcing more, and lowering and trying to keep low salaries and paychecks and things like that. And so some of these are resolved all in one package in the form of AI.
Mm-hmm.
We all have fears about AI, killing jobs, reducing the workforce in animation. I do think that's going to happen, but we don't know to what extreme. And I'm all with Ben Affleck, guys. I don't know if you guys have heard from Ben Affleck lately.
Betty.
He's not only the second or third best Batman ever, but he's also very smart when it comes to AI, and he's done his homework. But I really like his philosophy. Recently, he was online talking about AI, and he has this great quote. I'm just going to quote it here. I wrote it down. Craftsman is knowing how to work. Art is knowing when to stop.
So craftsmanship.
Craftsmanship. I'm reading it as he said it. He did say craftsman, but it was after he said AI is a craftsman, but not an artist. You can have a craftsman that sits next to somebody else and they put together a piece of furniture, and AI is that person that's learning the skill set or the craftsmanship of, okay, I got to pound this into this, and if I'm careful in my measurements,
that it takes,
and if I do these steps, I can create a chair, right? I can build a chair or something like that. But so a craftsman can learn to copy and even copy art. If you call it, it's just a thing to AI, right?
Sure.
But for us humans that are artists, there's emotion, there's experience, there's visceral, elemental things that go into our choices, our decisions that we're making hundreds of times a second. It seems like when we're creating something that makes it unique, that makes it unique to us. Even like when I draw something, even though Tom and I are identical twins, when I draw something, it will never be what Tom would do for that same project or whatever it is.
Challenge.
If I'm going to draw a rabbit, it's not going to look like Tom's rabbit, even though we are identical twins, meaning we are the same person genetically, and yet we will produce different looking rabbits. And Tom, mine's going to be better. I've drawn more rabbits, I think. So
you might win that one.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so but here's what's lame about that argument, and I agree. Like his point is a point, and it is a good point. He's trying to kind of, and it sounds like he's pro AI when he says that. Basically, like, don't worry. Yes, some people will be hurt by this, but there's a path forward with AI. Is kind of what he's saying. Is that
I've seen his whole. I would disagree with that, Tom, because I don't think anybody would call him pro AI, but he knows, he sees it like most people. It's going to have a role. It's going to happen no matter what, but it should be thought of as a tool. And as a tool, it is going to take jobs. And as a tool, it is going to, like he'll say straight out, VFX industry, post-production industry, those guys are in trouble. Watch out. That's going to be, they're going to clean house in some of those places. And it's going to bring down costs dramatically for studios. So going back to our larger conversation, there's multiple ways that studios are looking at cutting back in this new year and in the new future of entertainment. And they're trying to, what is it, how do you make a movie these days? And I think they're trying to redefine, a lot of the big studios, redefine how they make creative content, storytelling, movie making content.
Well, and I want to add to this, which it might be slightly a tangent, but that also the Screenwriters Guild has just released the other day, and I can't remember, it wasn't, but a lot of the screenwriters are up in arms as of just the other day. There was a big announcement made. Somebody, a newspaper reporter, I think it was, had dug deep into where things are in the screenwriting side of things with AI, and that they discovered that basically a lot of the main AI data banks have, I'm just not using the right terminology, but you get it.
I know what you're talking about.
They've fed in scripts and TV shows, screenplays from a lot of the major ones. I remember, at least on the TV show side, it was like most of the Seinfelds, half of the Simpsons scripts. I mean through all time. And I think they said all of the Breaking Bad scripts, all of I'm just throwing out a few that I remembered, but Seinfeld and things like that. So like sampling of, it's like 300 and something thousand or 600,000. It's a lot of scripts from both TV and feature films, plus every single Academy Award winning film from the beginning of time to 2019 or something like that have been fed in.
First of all, I want to say to the screenwriters, duh. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, of course they have. They've been doing that with all of our images we post on Instagram. All the images, photographic, created with mixed medias, artwork, everything has been fed into the systems that now.
I mean, I agree. That was actually my first thought, is like, well, welcome to the club, because
yeah.
And why are you surprised? Now, I do like that news got out there, because the average person I'm sure every screenwriter was like, yeah, I know, I'm not surprised a bit. But I do think that the average person out there isn't realizing, how bad it is and how they're going about creating AI. Because let's face it, everybody is just bat crazy over AI in a positive way in the business world. Like they are throwing billions of dollars into AI right now. All the investments of angel investors and stuff are going, and VCs are going toward AI right now. It is the hot thing in pretty much every kind of area except for entertainment. And I say except for entertainment only because of the creators are fighting it, not the business owners. So like you said, conglomerates are crazy about AI. And I do agree, there's a big difference between your small mom and pop animation studio and a conglomerate. I'm not all pro conglomerates either. That's why I have Penciler Studios. But long story short, I really feel like we're at a tipping point. We're going to find out. If I were to make a premonition, I think next year, honestly, is going to be a very telling year. On what's going to happen. I want to kind of throw this back toward the Animation Union, right? And Tony, you and I both have sort of, I would say, differing but mixed emotions toward sort of the union guild and what they were trying for. Again, as a business owner, but also as Tony, somebody that's been in the industry for 35 years. And I think this part of it you get, and probably agree with most of it, which is it's a cyclical kind of a situation, and that we've seen in the past the downfall of 2D animation, and then that going to be the death of animation? Well, no, it's not. And even 2D isn't completely gone, but it did lessen. That was a major change in about 2003 to 2007, we'll say, when 2D animation basically almost went away completely. And now it is a lot less. Now we're both working on a 2D animated feature film, so it's not dead, obviously, but it's pretty rare. And especially
we're bringing it back, Tom. That's my prediction. We're bringing it back.
But
I mean, Little Jesus film. Come on,
we're trying. But I will say this: like, obviously, it's not going to be the same way. Even our production process, Tony, on that film, as you know, is we're using Toon Boom Harmony. It's more rig based, and it's rigs plus hand drawn. It's a hybrid of those two 2D styles.
So therefore it's less expensive. Yes.
Yeah.
Admittedly.
So like
it's an independent.
We're not making an independent film that's Disney quality. We're getting as close as we can. We're applying a lot of those same principles and concepts, and we're certainly going for entertainment to that degree. But we know that it's not going to be hand drawn every single frame, completely on ones and twos. You know what I mean? Like super fluid and graceful, like that Disney training that we have. We knew that going in. And so what I'm saying is that I'm losing my point. That obviously things change, right? And we're going to see that like applied with AI and within the next couple of years. My reasoning is like, wow, that's crazy that everybody decided to strike right when everybody, the studios, the conglomerates especially, are shutting off programs. They're doing away with shows. They're laying people off in vast numbers, and they're starting to buy AI packages to probably replace some of those people. So it's a dangerous time to be striking or threatening striking. And I know they didn't strike. They were just sort of threatening it. So they got, and here's what I want to say. Obviously, everybody thought, well, no, it's in fairness. They need to be striking because of AI. This was one of the big reasonings that a lot of people were saying, oh, yeah, we need to fight for this. We need more money, more higher rate wages, which, again, a scary time. Right when you think, when everybody in your office is getting laid off, you don't go in and ask for a raise, right? That just seems like common reasoning. That's kind of what's happening. And then likewise, they were asking for AI regulations, some kind of like rules for AI. And as we know, they weren't going to go in and say, well, you can't use AI. We need to ban it. And I think a lot of people thought that's what was going to happen. It's a very naive standpoint, but I think a lot of people were going, well, we can make it so that they don't use AI in productions, right? Don't you think there's probably some people coming out of school thinking that was part of what they were going to fight for?
Yeah.
Well, here's what the basic agreement. Now, this isn't very detailed, but this is what what is in the news right now that says the Animation Guild contract is extended as talks continue on AI. Oh, and the newest news is that they are trying to wrap up the talks. Okay.
Hey, Tom, real quick, can I just give a little backstory for those that don't know too much about the union? Just a little bit here before you get into this, because you're right. This just broke yesterday. It's not ratified yet, but we're going to talk about the union and what they're negotiating right now with AMPTP. So let me give you a little backstory. You'll hear words in the media, the Animation Guild, and you'll also hear IATSE Local 839. They're the same thing, okay?
And you'll hear TAG.
Which is short for the Animation Guild. So it is our animation industry has been a part of IATSE Local 839, which is a bigger union that also covers like stage and theater and live action and lighting people. It's much bigger, this IATSE union, but our group, which has been lovingly deemed the Animation Guild or TAG, is part of that larger thing. But we do negotiate separately. Our union, IATSE 830, Local 839, negotiates for our own contract. And it's only for, I think it's 3-year contracts. They're just for a certain term. And we negotiate with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. So the Producers Guild, which is AMPTP, that's what our union negotiates with. And those producers represent all the big studios, the conglomerates and all that. Anybody that has a union contract. Now, not all studios have a union contract, but most of them do. And because of that, when you work at a Disney or a Sony or a Warner Brothers or DreamWorks, they're all covered under the union agreement, which means you have to join, if you want to work at those studios, which a lot of people do, you have to join the union to be covered by them and to get that job in that studio. The studio will not hire anybody that's not in the union either as a commitment to that union, because it's that group, the artists banding together that gives the union power to negotiate, right? And so part of their deal is that they will that all studios must adhere to the agreement if they're going to, and if you're going to, then you only hire union people. And then there's benefits from being in the union. There are protection, and these negotiations that happen every 3 years are important to getting justice, having a big brother basically to look out for you and negotiate in your best favor and interest with all these different studios. So we just got a tentative agreement as of yesterday. Tom, take it away. Let's talk about what that agreement was, what they were looking for, and what they're agreeing to.
Yeah. So they did get some, they got a 7% increase the first year and then I think it was a 4% the next, and a 3% or 3.5 the year after that.
Yeah.
So that's amazing right there. Tony has a point to that where he says, "Oh, that just means that they're going to have less employees because of AI, so they can afford to pay them more."
That's my theory as to why studios would even agree to that, because that is a large increase. That's more than just like, inflation. But I will say from the artist side, notoriously and systematically and historically, we have not been paid well in the animation industry. We haven't gotten boosts and raises for a long time. It's because of the heyday of the 1990s. Salaries went up dramatically in the 1990s when DreamWorks started up.
We'll say 1,000% or something crazy. I mean, it was a
went
lot.
up so high, but that was 28 years ago, and salaries have not gone past those higher rates in 28 years. That's how inflated they were, for one. But also, there is a time when change needs to happen, and I do agree with these wage increases, and that
I know, and the artist in me is like, yeah, but I'm also like the owner in me, the businessman, goes, well, wait, these are studios that are honestly struggling. And I know a lot of people are going to debate that. They're going to be like, those conglomerates, they're not struggling, but they are struggling in certain areas. And I think it's very clear they're struggling in film and animation right now, because they're not making the kind of monies they made pre-COVID. So they can definitely say they are struggling. Now, yeah, can they afford their cars? And I'm not arguing I'm not saying they're spending their money correctly, right? Obviously, the owners and all that are making way too much money. They should be spreading it out more. I get all that, 100%. But what I am saying is that the budgets for a lot of these shows, we just heard how much Arcane season 2 cost, where they were spending how much money, Tony?
They said season 1 and season 2 was over $250 million. So I don't know what the difference is between season 1 and season 2.
All right. Okay. But I do know season 1 and season 2, which I can't remember how many episodes that is, but almost doesn't matter. But an average amount, we'll say 8 to 10, probably episodes per season. But that's $250 million. That's all that we need to know, right? And so obviously spending crazy money on that show, and I've heard the other arguments that they're like, oh no, it's all on the screen, and we just hired really good people, blah blah. Yeah, okay, but it's still $250 million. Okay, how many movies could you have made, full feature films, with that?
Well, there was, this is just my quick opinion. There was irresponsible spending on that production, only because it was done by a video game company that had all the money in the world, and creators that had a lot of control to say, I don't care, we're going to keep spending money, we're going to try and get this exactly what we want it to be. So somebody was at the controller for making decisions that just didn't care about the money.
I mean, it's clear they weren't trying to save money. Right? Like,
no,
they weren't.
It's
they
almost
didn't go
like
to Fortiche Animation in France, who's one of probably the best animation studios in the world, we can say, and that's
especially now,
but especially now,
Arcane,
But they were paying top dollar for everything. To spend that kind of money, you have to be. So anyway,
and they were making
false starts.
They were making mistakes. Yeah. I mean, they were okay with going in the wrong direction for 2 years and then turning it around. Things like that.
Just throwing that money away. Yeah. So like that's all in there, I'm sure. But still, there's not a lot of studios. There's almost no studios that would do that. So anyway, long story short, that was a tangent. Sorry, guys. Back to AI and the union. So this is what we found out, that the basic agreement, now it's not very detailed here, but the basic agreement that has just been, has a tentative deal on the table with the studios is the AI, is concerning AI. The basic agreement states that workers this is what they got. Workers may ask for a consultation on AI use. I don't know what that means, consultation. So to me, that means, I'm guessing that when you're trying to get a job at a new employer, you can say, how are you using AI in your work processes?
Because I think it's deeper than that, because I think as a possible employee that I can do what you need me to do. Let me have that AI job. I think it's I think they have to, it's almost to the
What?
point where they have to offer it to a union guild member, I think is where that's going. Offer it to somebody in the union first, meaning tell me
Mm.
what's involved with that job and maybe I can apply for it and do it just like anybody else.
No, that can't be what that means.
Oh,
I
it
really want to dig
absolutely
into
could.
this. Workers may ask for a consultation. So when they hear that a job is going to AI, they can then knock on the door and say, I'm a union person and I can do that job. You have to give it to me.
Well, Tom,
No,
here's
that's
how
not a
it's,
consultation.
but here's how it's being worded is notification and consultation provisions, meaning the union has to know if the studio is going to be hiring for AI, and because they want to give those opportunities to their people first. But the consultation part is, well, obviously it's so brand new. How many of us have even been trained on the right things? But if they talk about it and they consult with either the union or the artists that are interested in applying, so first notification, we have 16 jobs that are coming up on this new Disney series, and they're all AI driven. You have to know, and then a consultation is, okay, the union digging deeper. So what's really involved here? Is this something that maybe one of our artists, or if we put it out to our membership? I think that's where it's going, because it always has to come back to jobs. The union is trying to protect jobs from their artists, not see them go away. So it's got to
Yeah.
be, it's got to come down to that, and that's why I believe that. I don't know this for certain. This is me guessing what this phrasing means, because we don't know, right?
I
We
mean,
don't,
I do agree with you. I do think you're probably right, or it sounds like you could be right anyway. That yeah, oh, here's what what we're thinking about doing, and we have to consult with the union first. But if there's no wording that says they have to then do what the union is saying, which there isn't, I'm sure of it, then okay, we told you, but now we're going to go do what we wanted to do anyway. So I see no safety in that at all. Let me continue. And that any AI work cannot be outsourced to non union labor. So here's where they're actually almost on the side of AI, in my
yeah,
opinion, is
that's
they're
going all the
saying,
way.
and when you give that work to AI, by the way, you can't go to another studio that isn't a non-union. You have to go to our union AI studios. So basically,
Yeah,
they're just saying, yes, we're committing to doing AI at all of our studios because we're going to have to.
I don't think the union's gonna get that piece. I don't think any producer union is gonna connect. I don't
You
think
think
they're gonna
that's
agree to that.
the troubling part is that they're going to have to go to a union AI house?
Well, yeah, because I just don't think they're gonna get the quality or the cost that they want. I'm thinking from the producer side. I think the producers are going to say, well, we can't commit to that. There's just not enough union or AI driven studios out there to even put that restriction on a
Well, okay.
producer.
So here's the other way your union is fighting for you to basically keep your jobs. The other stipulation is that that they supposedly have gotten a committee will also be set up to establish AI training. So through your union, you will get AI training, and that the contract also requires that if a worker loses a job due to AI, they are entitled to severance and retraining. Back to that, what they just said, establish AI training. So the union will probably be providing AI training, and that once you
Yep.
do get laid off, you get a little severance, and you'll then get in line to be a part of that training, so that you can go back into the studio
And try and get your job back. Yeah.
and be an AI trained artist, quote unquote. I don't
Yeah.
know at that point what that job would be.
Prompter, I think they call them. Anyway, I think I think that's great, though. I will say that I do believe that when everything turned CG from 2D years ago, everything, oh, Pixar came out with Toy Story. Now everybody wants to make CG animation. The union was right on top of that with training classes and things like that. Not all of them were free, but they couldn't expect the studios to pay for that training, and the studios do not want to pay for that training. So it was the union and your union dues that went towards paying for that training. So it doesn't surprise me that it is a new technology, and they're trying to help their people stay fresh. on what the current technology is for making animation. So,
but do you think, here's my question to you. Do you think that the people that are in the union, the artists, the artists, that when they heard that their union was fighting for their jobs and fighting against AI, that this was what they thought they would get? That basically what they just heard is, we're going to have to tell you before we use AI, but we're going to probably do it anyway. Hint on hint. I think that's strongly implied, because we all know if there's nothing that says they don't have that they can't use it, which they can't say that, right? They're never going to be able to, which I'm glad they weren't dumb and say, well, we're going to fight for them never using AI. Well, no, that's not going to happen.
Well, I know that's right.
So you can't promise that, like, ever. So, but
I think these are the best things.
The best things that they came up with, or came back with, let's put it that way, is we're going to train you when you lose your job. Like, that's basically it.
That is basically it. That's the best they can do. But these other provisions where they're trying to get studios to agree to letting them have some controls and decision making of who gets those AI jobs too. I don't know how they keep that going. I don't know how they enforce that. But I like that they're trying for that, because that does mean that union animation people can possibly transition into actual work in a brand new field of AI creation. So I see that as a positive, and I think it's the best that the union can do. I don't know what else.
Here's the thing.
Unless I'm not thinking of something,
I think that, like, I was shocked. I was like, okay, this is going to have to go to a strike, because basically the Animation Union is asking for a lot right now when everybody's laying people off and basically canceling shows, right? And AI is going to be a big talking point. So I was like, oh man, this has to lead to a strike, because why would they agree to anything right now? They are the ones in power right now, the studios, because basically we're all desperate for work right now, right? And I think I can easily say that. We just came back from Lightbox where everybody was looking for work, right?
Yeah.
And we're talking about pros that have been in the industry for a long time. And so we're at a point where we're hurting as a industry. So then you ask for more pay, 7%, which they've never ever done before. So I don't think you were totally wrong, Tony, when you said, oh yeah, I think they gave it to them because basically they were thinking they're going to lay off everybody, and so that's less people that we really have to pay that money to, and AI is going to take the other half of the jobs. That's a pretty dark and bleak way of looking at it. But if they have already, because this hasn't been going on that long, reached a tentative deal with the studios, what that means to me is that basically the unions really didn't get very much. They basically they didn't tell them, oh, you can't use AI. Okay, well, that's fine. Good. Okay. Agreed. We're going to use AI. Okay. What else do you got? Oh, well, when you lay off all those people, we're going to expect that you're going to pay for a little bit of training. They got to take some classes. Oh, yeah. No, we want people that have experience in animation. So yeah, okay, we'll agree to that. Like, that's what I'm saying is, like, was this really a meaty negotiation? Like, everybody was kind of, basically
I do
think
about. My opinion is the release of this story into the culture here, into the world, basically by saying that they have a tentative agreement and all that, was the union's way of getting all their membership on board, saying we've got some wins. I want to talk about those wins too, because there is some good stuff that happened here. We got some wins. AI, we did our best. And I think they still want it to be voted on and ratified by their membership.
And they want to make it sound like a win for sure. Yeah.
But that's why I think it was the union, the animators union, that put this news out there. It was not the producers union. It was not the other side that represents the studios.
Oh, no, I totally agree. I do think it was IATSE, the animation union.
No, it says it in the
they
article.
Put out a huge press release. Every Variety ran it, Hollywood Reporter, you name it. They're all ran this article.
Hey, this is great. But the reality is on the AI side, this is the best we could do.
Well, and let's be honest. IATSE, or the animation union, they they look like heroes either way. Honestly, they put out this like, oh, we got a tentative agreement. Here's all the great things that we asked for. If then they go to their membership, the actual artists, and say, here's what we got, and then the artists go, well, wait, that wasn't what I thought we were fighting for, or oh, you couldn't you've gone further with AI, and I still feel like I could still lose my job. I don't have any safety here. Well, then now it's the membership that didn't accept the terms. And so either way, they look like heroes. They're like, oh, hey, sorry, I know we announced that we had tentative agreement, but then our membership denied it. Sorry, that wasn't us. We did what we could. They just didn't. They didn't like.
Let me hit on some of the other points really quick, Tom, that have been agreed to or look like they will be ratified in this new contract. It increases to health and pension funds with no cuts to healthcare benefits or added costs. No cuts to health benefits is really great. Wage increases, we talked about that. I think the wage increases are great too. AI protections, not so great. We just talked about all that. Improvements in the new media side letter. So I don't know what that is, but there is a new media side letter, meaning an addendum to the contract that was probably came up with in the last contract or the contract before. So I don't know what that is. Protections for remote work. Let me hit on this. Remote work has been a big issue with, after COVID, during the pandemic, people started working from home and liking it. They didn't want to go back to the studios. Some people moved outside of the state, outside of California, where all the animation hub is. I did. I know that. If you wanted to work in and be covered by the union and work in a different state, you could not. There is a rule in IATSE Local 839 that you have to be within a radius of basically Hollywood, like a 100-mile radius, to work and be covered by the union. So the union is only local to that area where all the contracts are with all those major studios. So you go outside to Hawaii to live or to Tennessee to live or any of these places like we have, you're not covered anymore. And it's a big issue because that's where you get your medical benefits. Yes, you are paying a certain amount somewhat for medical benefits and somewhat for your dues. But that's a big benefit, is that the benefits that you get from the union, retirement, 401ks, all that kind of stuff. It's not given to you by the studios. It's given to you by your membership in the union. The union supplies those things. So that I don't know exactly what the protections for remote work is, but just that it sounds like they're digging into that and they're expanding upon that. I think that means the radius is not 100 miles from Hollywood anymore. And whatever that definition is, I'm sure it's much better.
Are you saying you think it's a less of a radius? Now it's
no. I think they're opening it up and saying, if you live in New York, if you live in Tennessee, you can still work on a union contracted project. Like if I wanted to work on, I'll tell you honestly, Tom, I actually have an example, because when I first got here to Tennessee, Disney called me and wanted me to work on Once Upon a Studio just for a couple weeks. Well, one, there's the issue of like, oh, I'm so far away. Two, the main issue was, could they hire me because I'm not in the union? And so they found a way to hire me as a full-time employee for a short term of time. And that's how they got through the bargaining agreement that they have with the union, that they won't. And the reason I'm not, they didn't just say, oh, well, you're far away, you just have to join the union and then we can employ you. Right. Because that was not an option, because I'm outside of the radius of employability and coverage.
So you're like a limited contractor, and so therefore you didn't have to pay union dues. You didn't have to join the union, correct?
Right. I didn't have to join the union
because it was a temporary situation.
Right.
But here's where I want to disagree with you, and I do think you're right to some degree in that was probably some of what they talked about, but that's not the primary concern. You went the other direction with that. You went from the direction.
I made it a positive.
Right. Here's the negative. I think the biggest thing
was your negatives.
No, here's the primary concern. I'm looking online right now. Key points about the Animation Union and outsourcing regulations. One of the primary concerns that all of the membership has is that the Animation Guild is prioritizing limiting the outsourcing of animation work to other countries. This is the other side of that, especially as a means to protect domestic jobs for their members. So you were just talking about the individual and, hey, can I live within the
Well,
U.S. somewhere else and
it
still
is
work
two
for the
different
studio?
issues, Tom. I hate to correct you, but remote work means that you are hired by a specific union contracted, union agreeing studio,
Yeah.
and you just happen to live outside of state, outside
So
of
wait,
Hollywood area.
is that what you were originally
That's what,
saying?
yeah, that's what
It was
remote
remote?
work means.
Oh, okay.
Remote work means that you're working for a union studio, but outside of the radius of basically Hollywood.
Well, okay, but the new so then I guess I'm
But
changing the
outsourcing
subject.
is a different thing. Outsourcing is hiring a studio, not an individual,
Right.
hiring a studio to do what you would hire regular employees to do because they have a whole package of their own team.
But
It's less
that's my
expensive.
question, and you're right. I misunderstood you, and I went the other direction with it. But is there protections in this new union negotiation from outsourcing? And I have a feeling there's not, because how are they going to control that? Honestly, they're going to go where the cheapest dollar is to spend money, right? So like here's what's happening, and this is why I want to talk about this really quick, is in the live action film industry, we are seeing Hollywood destroyed right now. I think it's 30-40% of, or even more, of the Hollywood live action film industry has been outsourced, and it's not coming back. I believe that strongly. They're going to places like Ireland to film films. They're going to Las Vegas. They're building, I think it's Warner
Canada,
Brothers. Warner
yeah,
Brothers is building a studio in Las Vegas, just on the other side of the California border, so that they can go there and get better tax incentives, but also cheaper waged employees and things like that to shoot live action. So they're building sound stages, is what I was going to say. There's now sound stages being built all over the U.S., Canada, Ireland, elsewhere, and that's all so that they can outsource. And the studios are behind this in a lot of cases. There's individuals building them too, but the studios are very pro leaving LA to shoot their films, because
yeah.
California is super. They've been very
The US in general is the most expensive place to make an animated series or
right.
feature. Most
And
expensive
now
in the world.
because of the industry being on a low, because of the Netflix is not doing so well, the Disney Plus is all the streaming problems and all that we don't need to go into. They are now outsourcing like crazy film production. You're seeing more and more foreign films that are dubbed on Netflix, right? Like action
Right.
series and stuff like that that was done in Brazil or something like that, and they're speaking Spanish, but it's been dubbed into the US because they can acquire that kind of content a lot cheaper than having US producers do that work. So the animation industry is worried about that now too, because we have studios all over the country, or the world, I mean, they're already the main source of a lot of the TV animation, but now film, live action too. I mean, not live action, but feature films. We're going to see that outsourced more and more, because there's tax incentives elsewhere that are profoundly different. We're talking 30, 40, sometimes 50%. The Canary Islands has a 50%, I think, tax incentive where you get back 50% of what you spend if you do it there.
Yeah, but
And
who wants to
that's
animate in the Canary Islands? What's it going to look like?
uh,
Well,
here's who wants to. Every producer out there that only cares about the bottom line. Oh,
I
what are you
mean,
talking about?
it's a good point, and here's another one actually that supports your point. A lot of people will be rushing to the theaters this weekend to go see Moana 2, the sequel to the first Moana, which made a ton of money. Inside Out 2 made $1.7 billion so far. They're saying Moana 2 could break those records.
Whoa.
Here's the scary truth, though, that is a good and a bad. The good is people are supporting animation. We want animation to do well, right? Because
Yeah.
if animation makes money, it supports the industry. The industry keeps going. But here's the scary point, which that not everybody knows, but certainly the Disney company who paid for and made Moana 2 knows, is that Moana 2 started out as a series for Disney Disney Channel, Disney Plus,
Yeah.
and Disney Plus wasn't doing so great. They were putting a lot of money into this, but they were utilizing they were outsourcing Moana 2, which
Well,
was
and
the
let
series.
me back up one more step from that, Tony, which
Yeah,
is they decided to make a Moana TV series because a lot of people don't know this. Moana, the original feature, is the #1 Disney Plus film of all time.
Viewed, yeah, viewed the most,
the
right?
most views of any other Disney film that's ever been on there, including Inside Out and Inside Out 2. You will see it.
Yeah.
But
So they pushed go on that button pretty quick when they said,
yep.
let's make a series. And it was going to just go to, Disney Plus, like we were saying. But when a couple of years ago, when they decided to kill all their kind of more woke features that they were working on and go in a different direction to sequels, let's just do safe sequels. And trust me, they have Zootopia. This is just the short note. Zootopia 2 is coming. Toy Story 5 is coming. Incredibles 3 is coming. Ice Age 6, which they own. Frozen 3, Frozen 4. Those are just some of the sequels, not counting Moana 2 now. But they went with the sequels. That's when they upgraded Moana, the series, to be Moana, the feature film, the sequel. And in doing so, they kept it in the same production pipeline for the most part. They added some more money to make it look a little richer, a little bit more theatrical, we'll say. But mostly it was produced at their studio, outsourced to their studio in Canada. Disney has a studio in Canada. Sony has a studio in Canada. All the major studios pretty much have their own studio where they usually do just TV quality kind of stuff, series kind of stuff. And they do the features still in California. And I say California, but in the US to keep the quality standards higher, because we are known to be not only the most expensive production crew in the world, but we are also known as being the highest quality of production artists in the world in the United States. So, but by upgrading Moana 2, and when it comes out, and if it does the kind of dollars that they're saying it's going to do, because it's such a strong brand, because people love Moana, they're going to go see this, and they're not going to care if it has some lesser quality standards. Are they going to notice, I guess, is the big question.
Probably not.
But they're probably not going to notice. They're probably not going to care. It's going to do really well, and it's going to feed the model in Disney's mind of, why are we doing these in the US in the most expensive way possible when we have less expensive outsourcing options for our features? Let's go that way. And
meanwhile, the next film that's coming out, Elio,
that's from Pixar. Mm-hmm.
Looks like a disaster. No offense. I actually don't know much about it. Sorry, guys. But I do know that they have been kind of not advertising it, not marketing it.
They have been downplaying it, I would say.
Downplaying it drastically. And that's an original story. And so we're going to see an original story like Elio most likely not doing well. Meanwhile, Moana 2 and Inside Out 2, both sequels, making more money than the originals made. It's crazy. And then now Moana 2 being done at a lot cheaper rate. That's bad. That's bad for the industry. By the way, I just want to shout out to Zach Mulligan. He's the one that broke that news, and he goes by No the Robot on Instagram and TikTok. But he had a similar story about Moana 2. That was kind of his angle that he took too. Tony, I have to wrap up right now. Unfortunately, I'm about to run out to dinner. My wife's going to kill me. So
I don't think we solved anything, but hopefully you got some updates on the industry, right. And hopefully we're educated a little bit about why unions are so important and what they do for us in the animation industry.
I took a slightly different tack. I was more like, why are we threatening to strike? Why, this is the time when we need to be thankful for a job. And so I'm a little bit on that side of it too, which is like, and did you really get what you think you got out of that union negotiation?
Well, it's what we got. And all I know is it's going to last for a little bit and 3 years, and then we're going to negotiate again. So hopefully we'll be even more ready or in a better, safer place for the next negotiation. Here's hoping. And Tom, as we always say, animate from the heart. AI can't do that.
No, they can't. Not from the heart. Put that prompt in there.
Be sure to subscribe to the Pencil-ish Studios YouTube channel.